September 22nd, 2007, we're back down at the shops with Greg Cohn. Greg, I want to do a little walk around, see what you've been doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to point this camera to one of the engine accessories and hope that you will tell us what it is.
It's pretty dark from here.
There, what am I looking at, Greg?
You're looking at an unrestored Bosch D4 high tension magneto.
And what do you plan to do with this baby?
I'm having the armature rewound, and then it will get restoration, new bearings, everything cleaned, sandblasted, repainted, points filed, that sort of thing, and then the magnets get recharged. Should be ready to go.
Okay, I'm looking at the water pump. You haven't hooked any water up yet, I don't think.
No, I haven't.
Tell me about the ignition system. I understand it was dual. Could you tell me what its purposes were?
Okay, yes, it has two independent ignition systems. The side we're looking at, the magneto side, the other side of the engine has another set of spark plugs, a distributor that is fed by a high tension coil that is actually in the toe board of the car, combined with the ignition switch.
What was the purpose of the two systems?
Two systems because a high tension magneto without an impulse coupling, which this does not have, does not generate a lot of current at slow speed. So when you're hand cranking the car, you need something that will give you a hot spark. So that is why you have the battery side, which is a battery charged coil and distributor, which generates the spark at low speed. Once the engine starts, you then can switch to the magneto.
I'm looking at the gearbox and the pulley assembly, I guess, that drives the water pump there and the magneto.
Yes.
And located right behind the magneto is a little sight gauge. Would you tell me what that is?
That's the quantity indicator for the crankcase oil. It holds
Okay.
12 quarts.
All right, 12 quarts of oil.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, we walked around to the front of the 1911 Stoddard Dayton speed car. I see a fan on there now. Where'd you get it? What'd you do to it?
Well, that's the original fan, which was in pretty bad shape, but I was able to disassemble it. Was able to straighten and massage the blades, sandblast them, prime them, paint them.
It looks like they got little grooves in them for stiffening purposes. Is that so?
I would say you're right.
All right.
And I don't have a fan belt on it yet. It's a leather belt.
A leather belt?
Yeah.
You going to be able to make one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're looking at the steering gearbox and the carburetor. Would you explain how that airflow system works there?
Sure. This is an air valve carburetor. And what happens is at the bottom of the carburetor is a primary air intake, which is too small.
Yes.
When the engine starts, it strangles for air. When it does that, it will open this air valve.
Do it again? There.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Engine vacuum will suck that air valve open to whatever degree it wants. You know, it's self-adjusting. And then when that happens, there's a needle valve which operates a jet. So as the air valve's pulled open, it'll richen itself.
Okay. What's it like to restore a nearly 100-year-old steering gearbox?
Difficult. Sometimes the bearings have to be remachined or reground, which I had to do in this case, since standards have changed and the gearbox was made by a company called Jaycox, and they had their own standards, and their engineers were deciding what would be right, how to put the thing together. So you have to play by their rules.
Yeah, and this is the distributor, of course.
Yeah.
On the distributor side.
Or timer, as they called it in those days.
Timer. All right.
Which,
And that's where you advance and retard the spark.
That's right.
Yes, sir. And when you start it, you want the spark at retarded?
Retarded.
Yeah.
Started slow.
That was all before my time, sir. Okay, Greg, in one of your still pictures, you showed the pumps. Would you explain their purpose and what you know about them?
Sure. These were manufactured by a company called Lunkenheimer in Cincinnati for automotive and boat use. It's a double system what we have here. The right-hand pump is an air pump. You use this to pressurize the fuel tank for initial starting. You will have a gauge on the dash that reads up to 4 pounds. So you're looking to pressurize the tank to about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. Once the engine starts, then on the front of the dash, you have an exhaust gas regulator. And what it does is it takes exhaust gas, which is fed through a 3/8 inch copper tube to this device. This is a Lunkenheimer exhaust pressure regulator. What this does is it receives exhaust pressure from the exhaust manifold through a 3/8 inch pipe. It takes the exhaust gas, it cools it, condenses it, and with the condensate, you have a drain valve on the underside to drain the moisture out of it. Mm-hmm. And this is a regulator. And what you do is you regulate the exhaust gas to 1.5 pounds.
And you only do that once, or in maintenance, it's always, it stays that way?
It should stay.
Okay.
And then the exhaust pressure is then routed to the fuel tank in the back to take over for the hand pump.
And you knew all about this stuff when you first saw that thing? How did you identify it?
Well, I knew what it was. I'm familiar with the system, but it's a very rare thing because they usually, the owner, this would get clogged up with carbon, be a lot of trouble. So it was probably one of the first things they took off and pitched in the pond, you know. So they're very hard to come by. I'm pleased to have it.
I bet you are.